Good evening, and welcome to a show that the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into a topic that has America more divided than ever. Loyalty to Donald J. Trump. Forget the polls, forget the fake news, forget the swamp creatures in Washington. We're going straight to the heartland, to the real America, where people tell it like it is. We're talking about the 10 states where Trump's message of America first isn't just a slogan, it's a way of life. Imagine a future where loyalty isn't just a word, but a fierce battle cry. In a divided America, 10 states have drawn their line in the sand, and their loyalty to Donald Trump is unbreakable. Some of these might shock you, some will ignite debates, but trust me, you'll never guess who takes the #1 spot. So buckle up because we're about to take a wild ride through Trump country. We'll expose the media lies, the hypocrisy of the left, and the raw, unfiltered patriotism that still burns bright in these United States. Stay with me, because this list isn't just about politics, it's about the soul of a nation. And #1 will leave you questioning everything. We're kicking off our list at number 10 with a state that knows a thing or two about hard work, honest living, and telling the swamp to shove it, West Virginia. This is coal country, folks, the heart of America. And let me tell you, the people here haven't forgotten who stood up for them when the elites turned their backs. In 2016, Trump won a jaw-dropping 68% of the vote here, and he increased that margin in 2020. Think about that for a second. While the fake news was busy peddling their Russia hoax and impeachment fantasies, the people of West Virginia saw right through the charade. They knew a fighter when they saw one. In towns where American flags wave on every porch and the stars and stripes aren't some symbol of oppression, Trump isn't just a former president, he's seen as a savior, a bulwark against the radical left's assault on American values. They understand what's at stake, and they're not afraid to fight for it. Why the unwavering loyalty? Simple. Trump's promises to revive the coal industry, to bring back jobs, to put America first. It wasn't just empty rhetoric to them, it was a lifeline. These are people who have been abandoned by decades of globalist trade policies, forgotten by the very politicians who claim to represent them. He speaks for us, one voter told CNN, a rare moment of honesty from the fake news network. Not Washington, not Wall Street, us. And you know what? They're right. For too long, the hard-working men and women of West Virginia have been ignored, ridiculed, and demonized by the coastal elites who wouldn't know a day's work if it hit them in the face. They've watched their jobs shipped overseas, their communities devastated by opioids, their way of life mocked and belittled by the very people who claim to be compassionate. But Trump saw them. He heard their pleas. He understood their anger. He didn't lecture them about the evils of coal or the need to embrace some globalist green agenda that would only serve to further enrich the pockets of the already wealthy. He promised to fight for them, and fight he did. Now, the mainstream media will tell you that Trump's promises were empty, that his policies were harmful, that he's nothing but a charlatan who preyed on the hopes and dreams of the working class. But the people of West Virginia know better. They've seen firsthand the results of his policies, the resurgence of American manufacturing, the energy independence that he delivered. They remember the rallies, the speeches, the way he energized a forgotten segment of America and made them feel seen, heard, and respected again. And that, my friends, is something that the liberal elites will never understand. It's about dignity. It's about respect. It's about having someone in your corner who's willing to fight for you, even when the whole world is against you. You see, in West Virginia, they haven't forgotten what it means to be an American. They haven't forgotten the sacrifices that were made, the blood that was spilled to secure the freedoms that we so often take for granted. They understand that freedom isn't free, that it requires constant vigilance, a willingness to stand up to tyranny in all its forms. And that's exactly what they see in Donald Trump, a man who isn't afraid to speak his mind, to challenge the status quo, to fight back against the forces that seek to destroy everything that makes America great. They see him as a modern-day patriot, cut from the same cloth as the Founding Fathers, willing to risk everything to defend the Constitution and the values it represents. And that's why they remain fiercely loyal to him, even in the face of relentless attacks from the media, the establishment, and the radical left. West Virginia is a stark reminder that the spirit of 1776 is alive and well in this country. It's a reminder that there are still millions of Americans who are willing to stand up for what they believe in, who are willing to fight for their country, and who are willing to defend their way of life, no matter the cost. Don't underestimate them. Coming in hot at number 9, we have a state that embodies the American spirit, Oklahoma. This isn't just flyover country, folks. This is the heartland of America, where faith, family, and freedom still mean something. And let me tell you, the people here can spot a phony a mile away. They've seen it all, they've heard it all. And they're not buying what the mainstream media is selling. This deep red state hasn't voted for a Democrat since Lyndon B. Johnson. And for good reason. The Democratic Party of today has abandoned its working-class roots, embracing radical ideologies that are completely at odds with the values of everyday Oklahomans. Trump, on the other hand, speaks their language. He understands their concerns. He shares their values. Trump fits the Oklahoma spirit perfectly: rugged individualism, God, guns, and a deep distrust of anything coming out of Washington, D.C. They believe in hard work, not handouts. They believe in personal responsibility, not government overreach. They believe in the Second Amendment, not gun-grabbing liberals who want to disarm law-abiding citizens. In 2020, Trump swept every single county in the state. Every single county. Let that sink in for a moment. While the coastal elites were busy virtue signaling and lecturing everyone about tolerance, the people of Oklahoma were sending a clear message: we stand with Trump. And that loyalty hasn't wavered, not one bit. Drive through the small towns of Oklahoma and you'll see pickup trucks with Trump flags still flying high. You'll see MAGA hats proudly worn. You'll see Trump signs still standing in front yards, a testament to the enduring support he enjoys in this part of the country. And don't even think about insulting him at a local diner. You just might find yourself on the receiving end of some good old-fashioned Oklahoma justice. People here don't take kindly to disrespect, especially when it comes to their chosen leader. They understand that loyalty is a two-way street. Trump was loyal to them, and they're going to be loyal to him. The mainstream media loves to paint Trump supporters as ignorant, uneducated, and easily manipulated. But let me tell you something, the people of Oklahoma are anything but. They're smart, they're savvy, and they see right through the lies and the propaganda. They know that the media's obsession with Trump is nothing more than a desperate attempt to silence him and his supporters. But it's not going to work. The people of Oklahoma have made up their minds, they've chosen their side, and they're not backing down. In Oklahoma, loyalty to Trump is almost a badge of honor, a symbol of their unwavering commitment to the values that have made this country great. You see, in Oklahoma, they understand something that the elites in Washington seem to have forgotten. America wasn't built on big government, political correctness, or open borders. It was built on the backs of hardworking men and women who believed in God, family, and country, people who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty, who understood the value of hard work, and who were willing to fight for what they believed in. And that's exactly what they see in Donald Trump. A man who isn't afraid to speak his mind, to challenge the status quo, to fight back against the forces that seek to destroy everything that makes America great. They see him as a throwback to a simpler time, a time when men were men and leaders weren't afraid to lead. They see him as a protector, a defender of their way of life, and they're not going to let him down. Oklahoma is a microcosm of what's happening all across this country. It's a reminder that the silent majority is alive and well, and they're not going to be silenced any longer. They're standing up, they're speaking out, and they're taking their country back. And it all starts with their unwavering loyalty to Donald J. Trump. At number 8, we head deep into the heart of it all, folks. Alabama, the Crimson Tide. And let me tell you, the Trump tide rolled in here and never left. You see those folks cheering at a football game? They cheer just as loud for the man who promised to put America first. Alabama understands strength, understands winning. They saw those wins slipping away under Obama, under Biden. But Trump, he talked their language. He talked about bringing back jobs, about standing up to China. He said what they were thinking, what the liberal media would never dare to say. And the media, they called them all sorts of names, just like they call you names. But Alabama didn't care. They knew better. They saw through the lies, the smears, the Russia hoax. They saw a fighter, someone who wouldn't back down. And that, my friends, is why Alabama is Trump country. The mainstream media, the ones who think they're so much smarter than you, they love to sneer at places like Alabama. They call them backwards, out of touch. But you know what? Alabama is holding on to something precious. They haven't abandoned their values, the values that made this country great. Faith, family, hard work. Those aren't just words in Alabama, they're a way of life. And they saw those values under attack. They saw the radical left trying to silence anyone who disagreed with them, trying to rewrite history, trying to turn their kids against them. But Trump, he stood in the way. He said enough is enough. He defended their right to believe, their right to live their lives the way they see fit. and that's why they'd walk through fire for him. Now Alabama knows a thing or two about swamp creatures. They've seen their share of slick politicians, all talk and no action. But Trump, he came in like a wrecking ball. He didn't care about their cocktail parties or their fancy fundraisers. He cared about the people, the forgotten men and women of this country. He promised to bring back their jobs, to stand up for their values, to drain the swamp. And you know what? He meant it. He wasn't afraid to take on the establishment, the deep state, the swamp monsters themselves, and Alabama, they loved him for it. We're moving on to number 7 on our list, folks, and we're heading to Kentucky. Now, Kentucky is known for its bourbon, its bluegrass music, and its horses. But let me tell you, there's something else running deep in these hills. Loyalty. Kentucky saw in Trump what they'd been missing in their leaders for decades, a spine, someone who wouldn't back down, who wouldn't sell them out for a pat on the head from the Washington elites. They saw the attacks on their way of life, on their jobs, on their values. They saw the factories closing, the opioid crisis ravaging their communities, the politicians in Washington more concerned with globalism than with the people they were supposed to represent. And then they heard Trump. He spoke directly to their anxieties, to their frustrations. He promised to bring back their jobs, to fight for them, to put America first, and they believed him. Now, the media, they tried to paint Trump as a buffoon, a reality TV star who didn't understand the complexities of government. But you know what? Kentucky didn't care. They didn't want another polished politician, another empty suit. They wanted a fighter. They wanted someone who would stand up to the swamp, someone who would shake things up. And Trump, he was the ultimate outsider. He didn't come from the same mold as the Bushes or the Clintons. He wasn't beholden to special interests or lobbyists. He was a businessman, a deal maker, a disruptor. And in a world of career politicians, that was a breath of fresh air. Now I know what you're thinking. Mitch McConnell, that establishment stiff, he's from Kentucky and he doesn't exactly scream MAGA. And you're right, there's a tension there, a dissonance between the old guard Republicans like McConnell and the new wave of populism that Trump represents. But here's the thing, even McConnell, for all his flaws, understands the power of the Trump base. He knows that Kentucky is Trump country, and he knows that if he wants to stay in power, he needs to keep those voters happy. It's a delicate dance, but it's one that McConnell knows he has to play. Because in Kentucky, loyalty to Trump runs deep. Sliding into number 6, we find ourselves in Tennessee, the volunteer state. And let me tell you folks, they weren't just volunteering their votes for Trump, they were volunteering their hearts. They saw in Trump a kindred spirit, someone who wasn't afraid to speak his mind, someone who didn't back down from a fight. They saw the attacks on their values, on their way of life. They saw the Hollywood elites, the liberal media, the coastal universities all looking down their noses at them, sneering at their faith, their patriotism, their love of country. But Tennessee wouldn't be silenced. They wouldn't apologize for who they were. And in Trump, they found a champion, someone who would stand with them, who would fight for them. Now I know what you're thinking. Nashville, that bastion of country music, isn't that a liberal haven? And you're right, Nashville is a bit of an outlier in Tennessee. But don't let that fool you. The heart of Tennessee, the soul of Tennessee beats red. It beats for freedom, for faith, for family. It beats for the values that built this country. The values that the radical left is trying so hard to destroy. And Trump, he tapped into that heartbeat. He understood those values. He spoke their language. He didn't talk down to them. He didn't patronize them. He respected them. Now, Trump wasn't always politically correct. In fact, he rarely was. But you know what? Tennessee didn't care. They were tired of the carefully crafted speeches, the empty promises, the double talk of career politicians. They wanted someone who would tell it like it is, someone who wouldn't sugarcoat the truth. And Trump? He was a straight shooter. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. He didn't back down from a fight. He didn't apologize for his beliefs, and that defiance, that refusal to conform, that's what resonated with the people of Tennessee. They saw in him a reflection of their own independent spirit, their own unwillingness to be told what to think, what to believe, and that, my friends, is why Tennessee stands with Trump. We're halfway through our list, folks, and coming in at number 5 is a state that doesn't play games, Missouri. They call it the Show Me State, and let me tell you, Missouri showed America just how deep the support for Donald J. Trump truly runs. From the bustling streets of St. Louis to those heartland farm towns, Missourians embraced Trump's straight talk. They loved that he refused to sugarcoat the hard truths that the elites in Washington would rather you ignore. In 2020, the election wasn't even close in Missouri. Trump dominated, winning by a staggering margin of over 15 points. The mainstream media, they couldn't believe it. They scratched their heads, wondering how those simple folk in the Midwest could be so taken in. But they just don't get it. You see, what the liberal elites call rough edges, Missourians see as authenticity. As one farmer told me, "We don't want a politician, Tucker, we want a fighter." And that, my friends, is Missouri in a nutshell. The mainstream media likes to paint a picture of Trump supporters as, well, let's just say it's not flattering, but the truth is, the people of Missouri saw in Donald Trump someone who finally understood their struggles. For years, they felt ignored by Washington. The politicians, the bureaucrats, they all seemed more interested in helping themselves than the hard-working families of Middle America. But then Trump came along and promised to put America first. He promised to bring back jobs, to stand up to China, to drain the swamp. And you know what? The people of Missouri believed him. They'd been lied to before, but there was something different about Trump. He spoke their language. He understood their frustrations. He was one of them. And that, my friends, is a powerful thing. Even today, long after the fake news media has moved on to their next manufactured crisis, the people of Missouri remain loyal to Donald Trump. They see him as a man who fought for them, who spoke for them, who understood them. They remember the promises he kept, the jobs he brought back, the respect he restored to America on the world stage, and they won't forget the way the elites in Washington tried to destroy him for it. In Missouri, loyalty isn't just a word, it's a way of life. And that's why, my friends, Missouri earns its spot on our list of the top Trump-loyal states. Coming in at number 4 is a state that's often overlooked, but let me tell you, Idaho is a force to be reckoned with. They might be known for their potatoes, but politically, Idaho is pure MAGA country. We're talking about a place where small government, individual freedom, and religious rights aren't just political talking points, they're a way of life. And when Donald Trump spoke about defending the Second Amendment and standing against socialism, the people of Idaho heard him loud and clear. They saw in Trump a kindred spirit, someone who understood their values, their beliefs, their deep-seated distrust of big government. There's a saying in Idaho, we don't trust DC, we trust each other, and Trump, he tapped right into that sentiment. You see, Idahoans, they have this independent streak. They don't like being told what to do, whether it's by some bureaucrat in Washington or some out-of-touch liberal on the coasts. They value their freedom, their self-reliance, their connection to the land. And they saw in Donald Trump a president who understood that, a president who wouldn't try to control their lives, who wouldn't try to dictate their values. Now, the mainstream media, they love to portray Trump supporters as angry, as resentful, but the truth is, the people of Idaho are some of the most welcoming, most down-to-earth folks you'll ever meet. But they're also fiercely protective of their way of life, and they saw in Donald Trump a president who would do the same. Idaho isn't just a state, it's a symbol of what America can be when people are free to live their lives, raise their families, and worship their God without interference from the government. And under Donald Trump, they saw that vision coming to life. He appointed conservative judges, he cut taxes, he rolled back regulations, he stood up for religious liberty. He showed the people of Idaho that their values, their beliefs, their way of life wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. And that, my friends, is why Idaho stands tall as one of the most Trump-loyal states in the Union. Hold on to your hats, folks, because at number 3, we're heading to Wyoming. Now, it might be the least populated state in the Union, but when it comes to loyalty to Donald Trump, Wyoming punches way above its weight. We're talking about a place where the spirit of the Wild West is alive and well, where people value independence, self-reliance, and telling it like it is. And let me tell you, in 2020, Wyoming didn't just vote for Trump, they roared their approval. He captured a mind-blowing 70% of the vote, the highest in the entire nation. Think about that. Now, the mainstream media, they love to talk about how divided America is. They love to paint this picture of Trump supporters as a shrinking minority. But then you look at a state like Wyoming, and you realize just how out of touch those elites really are. Because even after January 6th, even after the endless media attacks, the people of Wyoming doubled down on their support for Donald Trump. They saw through the lies, the distortions, the attempts to silence him and his supporters. They knew that the man they voted for, the man who fought for them, was being unfairly targeted by the very forces that had been trying to destroy America for decades. You see, the people of Wyoming, they get it. They understand that no leader is perfect. They understand that Donald Trump is a fighter, a brawler, a man who doesn't back down from a challenge. And in a world where so many politicians are more concerned with being liked than being right, that kind of courage is refreshing. It's inspiring. The people of Wyoming, they didn't need a savior, they needed a fighter. And in Donald Trump, they found both. And that, my friends, is why Wyoming stands as a shining example of Trump loyalty in America. We're charging into the top 3, folks, with South Dakota at number 2. You know, it's funny. Those 4 presidents carved into Mount Rushmore, they're looking out over a state that's become a stronghold of Trumpism. And you gotta wonder, what would Washington, Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, even Lincoln, think about all this? Would they recognize the America they fought for? South Dakota's not just geographically in the heartland of America, it's spiritually in the heartland of Trump country, led by their firebrand Governor Kristi Noem, a woman who makes the liberals' heads spin. They never bowed to the COVID hysteria. Remember lockdowns? Not in South Dakota. They understand something fundamental in that state. Freedom isn't a gift from the government, it's a God-given right, and that, my friends, is pure Trumpism. See, the mainstream media, they like to paint Trump supporters as these backwater rubes clinging to their guns and religion. But what they miss is the deep love for liberty that burns in places like South Dakota. They're not afraid to stand up to the swamp, to the elites, to anyone who tries to tell them how to live their lives. Trump gets that. He sees them, he hears them, and most importantly, he fights for them. And that's why South Dakota is Trump country through and through. Now some folks might say, Tucker, why all the fuss about South Dakota? It's just a bunch of cows and cornfields, right? Wrong. They may not have the glitz and glamour of New York City or the Hollywood Hills, but they have something far more important: backbone. They're not swayed by the latest trends or the virtue signaling of the day. They believe in hard work, faith, and family. They look out for their neighbors and they don't back down from a fight. And when they saw the swamp trying to drown out the American dream, they knew exactly who to call: Donald J. Trump. He's more than just a politician to them. He's a symbol of defiance against the radical left's agenda. He's a reminder that America wasn't built on safe spaces and participation trophies, but on grit, determination, and the unwavering belief in individual liberty. And that's a message that resonates deeply in the heartland. It's a message that cuts through the noise and speaks directly to the soul of patriots who are tired of being ignored, silenced, and looked down upon. South Dakota, you keep doing you. We're talking about a state where the values of self-reliance and personal responsibility aren't just talked about, they're lived. They hunt their own food, they work the land with their own 2 hands, and they don't expect handouts or bailouts from the government. And that's why they saw through the lies and the smears of the mainstream media. They knew that Trump wasn't the monster the liberal elites were trying to paint him as. They saw a businessman, an outsider, a fighter who wasn't afraid to speak his mind and challenge the status quo. They saw themselves in Donald Trump hardworking Americans who just want to live their lives in peace, provide for their families, and protect the values that make this country great. And they knew that he was the only one who could stand up to the radical left and drain the swamp. So the next time you hear someone dismiss South Dakota as flyover country, remember this: they're the ones holding the line for the American dream. They're the ones who will keep the flame of liberty burning bright. They are the heart and soul of Trump's America. And here we are, folks, the moment you've all been waiting for. The #1 Trump-loyal state in America. Are you ready for this? It's Florida. That's right, the Sunshine State. Now some of you might be thinking, hold on, Tucker, isn't Florida supposed to be a swing state? Well, it used to be. But let me tell you, something's changing down there. The alligators aren't the only ones with teeth anymore. Florida's gone full-on MAGA, and it's sending shockwaves through the political establishment. You see, Florida's got a little something for everyone. Retirees escaping the cold, young families chasing the American dream, and a whole lot of folks who fled socialist nightmares in places like Cuba and Venezuela. They came to Florida for freedom, and they're not about to let it slip away. Not on their watch. And who better to lead the charge against the socialist creep than Donald J. Trump? He speaks their language. He understands their fight. And they know he'll always have their back. Now the mainstream media, they love to paint Florida as this wacky, unpredictable place. You know, Florida man and all that. But what they don't get is that beneath the surface there's a deep current of patriotism running through the state. Think about it. This is the state that gave us the Hanging Chads controversy. They know how to fight for what they believe in. And right now, what they believe in is Trump. He flipped Miami-Dade County, for crying out loud. The Democrats, they still can't believe it. They thought they had Florida in their pocket. But they underestimated the power of Trump's message, especially among Hispanic voters. They see right through the Democrats' empty promises and radical agenda. They know that socialism leads to misery and ruin. They've seen it firsthand. And let's not forget, Florida is now home to the man himself, Mar-a-Lago. It's become a pilgrimage site for conservatives, a place where they can gather, share ideas, and strategize for the future. The energy there is electric. You can feel it in the air. It's the feeling of a movement that's not going away anytime soon. Florida is proof that the America First movement is alive and well. It's a diverse coalition of working-class Americans, small business owners, retirees, and yes, even celebrities who are fed up with the swamp and its endless corruption. They're done with the lies, the hypocrisy, and the double standards. They want a leader who puts America first, and they found that leader in Donald J. Trump. Florida, you are the tip of the spear in the fight for the soul of America. Keep fighting the good fight. So there you have it, the top 10 Trump loyal states. Did your state make the cut? Were you surprised by Florida's #1 spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't hold back. I want to hear what you think. This isn't just about geography, folks. It's about the heart and soul of America. It's about who we are as a people and what we stand for. In today's America, loyalty isn't just political, it's personal. Hit that like button if you're as shocked by these rankings as I am. And smash that subscribe button if you want more of the truth that the mainstream media refuses to tell you. Until next time, stay bold, stay loud, and stay proud.